The day everything shattered began like any other inside the marble silent penthouse overlooking the city, a place where money softened every sound and hid every secret behind glass walls and white curtains. Elena had learned to move quietly there. As the maid, she knew which floors creaked, which doors sighed when opened too quickly, which rooms felt colder even when the sun poured in. She also knew the baby's cries before anyone else did. Little Noah had a way of calling for comfort that sounded less like noise and more like a question, as if asking the world whether it would answer him today. Elena always answered. She always did, until that morning when she found herself frozen, begging, her voice breaking in a house that suddenly felt too large for mercy. The millionaire, Victor Hale, was away on business, and his fiancée, Cassandra, had arrived early, heels clicking like a metronome counting down something terrible. Cassandra was beauty sharpened into a weapon, a woman who smiled with her lips while her eyes calculated. She had never hidden her resentment toward Noah, the baby Victor had brought into his life after a brief, painful past he refused to discuss. Cassandra called Noah a complication, never a child, and Elena had learned to stand a little closer whenever Cassandra entered a room, as if proximity alone could protect innocence. That morning, sunlight glinted off Cassandra's diamond ring as she stared down at the baby crawling on the floor, her mouth curving in a way that made Elena's stomach tighten. Cassandra spoke softly, sweetly, asking Elena to step away for a moment, to fetch a cloth, to tidy the counter. Elena hesitated, instinct screaming, but obedience had been her armor for years. She turned for only a second. When she turned back, Cassandra had lifted the wooden training stick Victor used for fitness, harmless in the right hands, terrifying in the wrong, and raised it, not to strike but to threaten, to control, to make fear the language of the room. Elena dropped to her knees, the world narrowing to the space between Cassandra's raised arm and Noah's trembling body. "Please," Elena begged, hands pressed together as if prayer could become action. "Please stop. He's just a baby." Cassandra's smile vanished, replaced by something colder. She said words Elena would never forget, words about lessons and order and how children needed to be shaped early. The stick hovered, the baby cried, and time stretched thin as glass. Elena lunged, her palms skidding on the polished floor, her voice cracking again and again. What Cassandra did next left everyone shocked, not because she struck the baby, but because she didn't need to. She dropped the stick with a deliberate clatter, leaned down, and whispered something into Noah's ear that made him go silent, his cries stopping as if a switch had been flipped. The room filled with a silence so loud it hurt. Cassandra straightened, composed, and told Elena to remember her place. That was the moment Elena understood that cruelty did not always announce itself with blows, sometimes it arrived with words chosen to bruise where no one could see. Elena gathered Noah into her arms, feeling his tiny heart racing, feeling a tremor that was not fear alone but confusion, as if the world had spoken in a language he didn't yet know. She held him and made a decision that would change everything. She would not be quiet anymore. She would not be invisible. She would protect him, even if it cost her the job, the shelter, the fragile stability she had built from nothing. She carried Noah to the nursery, locked the door, and sang softly, her voice shaking but steady enough to remind him that someone would always answer his questions. When Victor returned unexpectedly that afternoon, briefcase still in hand, he sensed it immediately, the wrongness in the air, the way Elena stood too straight, the way Cassandra's charm felt rehearsed. Victor had built his fortune by noticing what others missed, by listening between words, and when he knelt to greet his son, he felt the tension in Noah's small body and saw the shadow in Elena's eyes. Cassandra spoke first, light and dismissive, suggesting Elena was overreacting, that babies cried for attention, that discipline was misunderstood kindness. Victor listened, nodded, then asked Elena to speak. Elena's hands trembled, but she told the truth in one long breath, every detail plain, every plea she had made, every word Cassandra had whispered. The room seemed to tilt as Victor processed it, his jaw tightening, his gaze turning from Cassandra to the dropped stick lying where it had been left, a symbol of something far worse than wood. Cassandra tried to laugh it off, to twist it into a misunderstanding, but the mask cracked when Victor asked her to repeat the words she had said to the baby. She couldn't. Silence betrayed her. Victor ended the engagement that day, not with anger but with a finality that echoed louder than shouting. Security escorted Cassandra out as she protested, as neighbors peeked, as the illusion collapsed. Victor knelt again, this time to Elena, and thanked her, not with money, not with promises, but with something rarer, respect. He told her she had saved his son not just from a moment, but from a future shaped by fear. The story spread quietly at first, then widely, not as gossip but as a warning and a testament. Elena became more than a maid, she became family. She stayed, helping raise Noah with gentleness and boundaries built from love, not threats. Years later, Noah would not remember the day directly, but he would feel its echo in the safety he carried within him, in the way his father listened, in the way Elena never left his side when voices rose. And for everyone who heard the story, the shock was not only in what the fiancé did, but in what the maid did next. She stood up, she spoke, and she changed the ending. If this story moved you, if you believe that courage can come from the quietest places and that protecting the vulnerable is a choice we make every day, then stay with us. Subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories that remind us why empathy matters, why truth matters, and why one brave voice can stop a moment from becoming a lifetime.